Hey, what's up guys? This video is for section 4.3, which is writing linear equations in point-slope form, but we are going to look at the other two forms that you guys learned in my previous videos. So if you guys want to watch my full version of this video, of this lesson, you guys can check out my Algebra 1 playlist in my YouTube channel. Now let's talk about the three forms that you guys have learned so far for linear functions. First, we have what is called the standard form, ax plus by equals c. Second, we have the slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. And on my first video of this section, I show you guys the point-slope form, which is y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x sub 1. So all of these three different forms, they represent a line when you guys graph. The only thing is that you guys have to know how to manage or have to work with one of those forms. So the first section, you guys learn how to write the point slope form using a slope of the line. So you guys see the slope here for number 1 is 3, and you guys use a point. Today, you guys are going to change the point slope form to one of the other two forms that you guys learned. So from this form, point slope form, we're going to go to the slope-intercept form, or we're going to go into the standard form, because that's what you can do. If you guys want to use one specific form, and let's say that one of them is in point slope form, but you guys like the slope-intercept form, well, you guys can change this to this. You guys have to multiply numbers, combine like terms, get the y by itself. Or if you guys want to use the standard form, you guys can also go from the slope-intercept form to the standard form, or you guys can go from the point slope form to the standard form. You just have to manipulate the numbers, you have to move the numbers around, and you guys have to set up the form like the one you guys want to use. So I'm going to go to 10 through 18. I'm not going to do a lot of questions for you, but like I said, guys, if you guys want to watch my full version of this video, you guys can check out that on my playlist, Algebra 1 playlist. So let's go ahead and read the instructions here. The instruction says, write each equation in standard form. First of all, very important that you guys know, we want the standard form. What is the standard form? Well, let's go ahead and write it down. So you guys see the standard form, ax plus by equals c. A few things that you guys need to know. X and y are on the same side of the equation. The constant is on the other side of the equation. Constant is a number with no variable. A, B, and C are integers, meaning that they are not fractions or decimals. And A is not a negative integer. It has to be positive. B can be negative, C can be negative. So I'm showing you guys B can be negative, C can be negative, but the A has to be positive, and you guys cannot have fractions, or you guys cannot have decimals. So let's go ahead and look at one of the questions. So let's try number 17. So I'm going to circle 17 here. The first thing is we have to identify what form we have. So if you see the form, y minus 2 equals negative 1/2 times the quantity of x minus 4. I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit so we can have a better look at it. So this one here, it actually looks like the point slope form, because for the point slope form, we have y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. So you guys have y1 to equal this number, x1 to equal this number, and then you guys have the slope to equal this number. So this is the point slope form. We want to change this to look like this one over here, where you guys have the standard form. So first of all, we need the x and the y on the same side. Right now, we don't have the y, we don't have the x on the same side, so we have to move things around. Second thing is you guys need integers. You guys cannot have fractions, so we're going to have to get rid of the fractions. And you guys need the constant. This is a constant, it doesn't have a variable. This one's a constant, it doesn't have a variable. We wanted to have it on the same side, on the other side of the equation of the x and the y. So there's a little bit of work you guys have to do. I am going to zoom in a little bit more, because I'm going to start doing the work. I am going to use the distributive property first. So I'm going to multiply this fraction into the actual parentheses, and we get y minus 2, that stays the same on the left side of the equation, and on the right side we have negative 1x plus 4 over 2. Negative times negative is a positive. When you guys multiply the fraction times the number inside, you multiply the top. 1 times 4, that's 4, and you guys keep the bottom. you guys can reduce, you guys can simplify this fraction. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And I do have that 2 here. Now the next step, you guys need to get the x and the y on the same side, but I noticed that I do have a fraction. So what I tell my students to make their life a little bit easier, you guys can get rid of the fraction by multiplying everything by the common denominator. But we only have one denominator here, so you only multiply by that denominator. Remember that you guys need to multiply everything on the left side and everything on the right side by that denominator, because that's the rule when you guys are trying to work with equations. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do it to the other side. So I already set up that product or that multiplication. I'm going to multiply everything by 2. So notice this one times 2, this one times 2, the fraction times 2, and this one times 2. So let's go ahead and multiply. And you guys will get 2y minus 4 equals negative 1x plus 4. If you guys are a little bit confused here, remember that the bottom, the denominator, goes into this 2 one time. And when you guys multiply 1 times the top number, 1 times 1 will be 1. But you guys have a negative. Do we need that 1 next to the negative? Next to the x? I'm sorry, you guys do need the negative. But you don't need that 1 next to the x. But I'll keep it right now because the next step is to get the x and the y on the same side. So I'm going to do the opposite of the x here. And notice that I am adding x to both sides. And I'm going to do the work on this side over here. On the left side of the equation, right here, I don't have any common variables or like terms. So I'm not going to add or subtract anything because this one's a y, this one's an x, this one doesn't have a variable. But I know that these two right here will cancel. So first of all, let me cancel that side. And I do have a 4 on the right side. So once you guys put everything together, we get x plus 2y minus 4 equals 4. Now, you guys want to get the x and the y by itself. So that means that this constant needs to go to the other side. So you're going to do the opposite of that. And we get x plus 2y equals 8. So let's go ahead and double check. The standard form, you guys have x and y on the same side. We don't have fractions. You guys have the constants on the other side of the equation, on the other side of the x and the y on the equation, and a is not negative. So we have everything we need to say this is in standard form. Now let's say that you might get x to be negative. The only thing you guys have to do to get rid of the negative, you multiply the x, the y, and the constant by a negative 1. And that's going to change the sign, and you guys will have an x to be positive. Now, I'm saying this just in case you guys get a negative x, just multiply everything by negative 1, and that's going to change the signs. So my answer for number 17, my standard form, is x plus 2y equals 8. The next section, it says here, you want to write each equation in slope-intercept form. So first of all, we do need to know what is the slope-intercept form. I'm going to do number 25 for you guys. So I'm going to put the slope-intercept form up here so we can actually see it when we are working with this equation. So the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So first, let's understand. The y is by itself. X will have a number next to that, and it is the slope of the line, and this m can be a fraction. It's okay. You guys can have a fraction. It can be negative, it can be positive. And b is also can be a fraction, can be negative, can be positive, but it doesn't have a variable. It is the constant. But the most important thing is you guys have y by itself. Right here, this y is not by itself. It's almost there, but y is not by itself. And you guys have a minus 2 next to it, so we're going to have to get this number to the other side. But also notice that we do have a parenthesis, and I forgot to mention this with the standard form. Standard form and slope-intercept form do not have parentheses. So you guys have to get rid of the parentheses by using the distributive property. So here, I actually have to get rid of the parentheses, so I have to multiply by the fraction. And it's okay to have fractions, but we want to have the y by itself. So let's go ahead and look at the problem. So keep in mind, this right now is in point slope form because we have y minus the y1, which is this number, equals m, this number, times the quantity of x plus x1. So first, let's go ahead and distribute the fraction 1/2 into the parentheses. And remember that for the fraction, you multiply the top times the one inside, and you guys keep the denominator, so 6/2. You guys can reduce that. And you guys have a 3 here. Now, you guys can keep the fraction. It's okay. For slope-intercept form, x can have a fraction. It can be negative. But the y has to be by itself. So this one, -2 or the -2 has to go to the other side. So I'm just going to do the opposite to both sides. And when you guys combine, this will cancel. So you guys have y equals right there. Y is by itself. X, we don't have another x on the bottom, so I'm just going to keep it the same. 1/2 x. And I'm going to add the constants. Those are like terms. They don't have a variable. Plus 5. So guess what? This is the answer for number 25. You guys have y equals 1/2 x plus 5. Ignore this 19, guys. This is just the number for the page. But the answer must have the y by itself. Remember that the slope of the line is 1/2 and the y-intercept is 5. I believe this form, the slope-intercept form, is the easiest one you guys can use to graph, and is the easiest one that you guys can convert the point-slope form to that form. So, but it depends on the person. Some other people like the standard form, other people like the point-slope form. I'm talking about myself. I like this form better than the other ones. So you guys really need to understand the 3 different forms for a linear function. So I'm going to say the names again. We have the standard form, we have the slope-intercept form, and we have the point-slope form. You guys also need to know how to rewrite, how to change from one form to the other one. And even though they're different, let me explain. Even though this form here, it looks very, very different than this form here, when you guys graph those, they will be the same graph. They will be the same slope. Because if you guys pay attention to the slope, look at the slope, 1/2. Look at the slope here, 1/2. That's the one outside the parentheses in point-slope form. So they have the same slope. This one, you guys do not have a point given to you, but this one, you actually have a point. You guys have the x1 right here and the y1 here. So when you graph it, it will be the same line. They look different, but it will be the same slope. It will be the same y-intercept. Everything will be the same because it is the same line. So I want you guys to keep working. I want you guys to keep practicing your math. I wish you guys the best, and I'll see you guys later.